Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Raising the Bar. I have Lisa and Tank Lathom here with us today.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Cool. So we're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about team building, working with your spouse, and the consumer experience. Hopefully, we can raise the bar on all of those things is kind of the goal here. So I guess before we get started about that, I guess Lisa and Tank, tell us a little bit about you guys and your business.
So I think I'll talk for the both of us. So I started my real estate career in 2014 in Richmond, Virginia, and Tank came home one day. He was an educator. And he said, well, we're moving to Western Pennsylvania. So we moved here in 2016, and I had to restart my business while he went back to teaching. And when we moved here, I didn't know anyone. The only people that I knew were Tank's parents and his grandma. So literally starting my business from scratch. And I managed in 3 years to grow it to a very healthy level, to the point where I needed to hire someone. And I was talking to Tank one day that I was going to start deciding how to hire someone. And he had said that he wanted to leave education and come be a real estate agent. So that is how that all happened. He left teaching at the end of 2019, right? 2019,
Yep.
December 2019. And here we are.
Awesome.
Now.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, and that's, I've always you really don't know, how to build a real estate business, or well, you really find out how to build a real estate business when you step out of a market and go do it over again. Really, I mean, that really teaches you a lot. I'm sure. I've never, even. I have one team member starting in York. So we're out of our Pittsburgh market a little bit with that. So I've learned a little bit, but it's not like totally just uprooting and gone. I mean, that's always the biggest challenge, I think. So I mean, I'm sure you can provide. I mean, you can probably provide a lot of insight for agents that are considering that or forced to move. That's a big deal. And I mean, your numbers last year were like 7 million, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
52 houses, I think, or 54.
53 units. By myself. I did that by myself. That was before Tank left. And it was too much. It was way too much to have any kind of work-life balance, because all I did was work, which was
but congrats for doing it on your own. That's tough.
What did you say?
I said congrats on doing that on your own, though.
Thank you.
That's tough.
Thanks.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
was a lot of fun, but I still would like to live my life and not just work 24 hours a day.
Well, and I think that's what we'll even get into today too. So I mean, that's the key, though. I mean, you really, it's all good and everything to build systems or have that mindset, but you kind of have to push the ceiling. You have to find that ceiling first before you know where you need it. And one of the things I've mentioned, even I think it was on even a previous episode like this podcast stuff, is where if you build it before you get there and find the pain points, you might not have built it with those pain points in mind. So sometimes it's nice to get there, just not fumble, but just get there and then get the production, get the results, get some stuff moving before you really try to systemize it.
I think that if you don't have the production, you don't know what needs systemized. You don't know what's taking up all of your time or how to fix it. So it's just like building your real estate business. You have all of this time. And Chad and I were actually talking about this the other day about being in the quarantine and not being able to work. And he had said, and it was like it was just mind blowing. Imagine being a seasoned agent and having all of this time to like get your systems in order. And it was just, I never really thought about it that way, even though, I mean, like I'm sitting here doing the same thing. It's just awesome to be able to get everything the way that you want it and actually have the time to do it, because usually when you get busy, you don't.
Yeah.
You kind of
exactly.
it.
Yeah, no. And so, I mean, that was one of the things. So one of the things I've looked at, so with our team, I mean, we're 5-6 years in. I really started the team about 2 years in. But one of the things I noticed specifically, whether I was solo agent or team, is every January, February, when it's not necessarily dead, but it's lessened a little bit. There's a little bit more time to focus on the systems and processes. every year I would make different iterations, different changes at the expense of Brittany or some of the team members, because they hate when I make changes. But I would make those changes every year, and I would, what's that?
It's the worst.
But I would look at the end of the next year and look at those changes, and I mean, it was kind of like a gut feeling, or so. But I could almost directly relate some of the increased production to those changes. So I said to myself, or I said to Britt this year, I got all excited, not excited. I mean, this quarantine's terrible. But like I had January and February this year. Then with coronavirus and us being stuck for a month or two here, I've got to have almost a second one. So I feel like our second half of this year, that second 6 months, should be like on steroids because I've had that time. And like you said, imagine starting, because you can't work during this. So imagine getting to start a business, with all the knowledge. So that's what's going on. So let's talk about, we'll start with team building then, I guess, first. In light of some of that, you're hitting a point where you're kind of wanting to have, and I mean, regardless of having a team of just buyer agents and listening, there's team building in a lot of ways. It doesn't just have to be having those buyer agents and listing agents. It can be your referral partners, your mortgage and lender partners, your spouse, even just a spouse. I mean, just your people that are involved in your process. It doesn't have to be a well-organized, like 5 buyer agent, 2 listing specialist team. It doesn't have to look like that. I think the word team is just a very big blanket term. It's not always, it can be taken a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. So, now I've obviously actually, I've had a team, and I can tell you sometimes that I have, what do we got, Britt? We have about 4 or 5 full-time buyer agents now, a couple part-timers.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are listing agents too. So so we kind of have had that.
Some of them have kind of like, flew out of the coop. So are they team? You know what I mean? They're doing well on their own, so they're not.
Well, yeah, we do a little differently. I mean, a lot of teams, you're stuck with that team when you're there. But I think really that speaks a little bit to the brokerage model at EXP, that we don't have to tie people down to our team, because we don't. We still win when they win. I think that's just built in with the model. If we were at Remax, where we were previously, like at Remax or another brokerage, once they leave your team, you just gave them all the
and we're not in the business to hold team members into us. We're here to help them better their future and one day go off on their own and not need us. That's one of the best parts about EXP. It completely changed our mindset and those things. Like, most people don't want their team members to leave and steal their ideas and stuff, but whereas we are like, yes, go start your own team, go expand, help the company grow, we'll all grow.
Well, and what it did was so it shifted the mindset, because that was not my mindset prior. I was like, how much money am I making off this person, and what, like all that stuff. Each transaction, right? Transaction to transaction. But what you start to realize is you start to get that open mindset. Like it shifted my mindset because of the financial model, obviously. But what it did was it taught me to just lead with contribution first, just pour value into people and just see what comes back. I mean, really, that's just, what a lot of good people do. I mean, I'm not saying I never did that before. I don't want to, it's not all absolutes here, but once that financial model kind of geared me towards that, shifted my mindset, I learned that forget the rev share thing or the team thing or whatever, that even if you pour every ounce of what you know or what you do, your whole entire system as a solo agent, a team, whatever, out into the open, nobody is going to really directly copy that. I mean, they can copy it, but they're not you. Like, no one is Lisa, no one is Tank, no one is Brittany, no one is
let them copy it. Let them take, good pointers from top producing agents. Like, you want them to learn from the top producers. Like, we've had team members that weren't even in our rev share tree that we have poured so much information into, and some people have left our team and we're still here for them even though we didn't even recruit them. We just we value a lot in the information that we have.
Well, the point is you get back. You don't realize I didn't realize how much you get back until you do. So just leading with contribution, just kind of being a good person, just having good core values really as a whole, just putting that out there, you gain so much back in your own knowledge. You don't know how it comes. It's like hard to explain. It's almost like buyers looking for a house. I always say, like, it just tends to fall into place no matter how much logic you put to it. It does. It's the same thing when you just put yourself, out there and pour value into people. I have gained perspectives, ideas, the masterminding stuff. Like, there is a reason why top level agents mastermind with other agents. Like, there's a reason. There's a reason why low level agents don't. I don't mean that in a rude way. I just mean that there's a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And the growth mindset has always been open, transparent, collaborative, good people for the most part. There's exceptions to the rule, but I would say it's been a big impact for us. So, with team building, I'll start with systems, because I know that's one of the things that's my strong suit, is systems. So if you're building a team of whatever type, I think you got to have systems in place. Not so much that everything is. I want to shy away from the word systems in the sense of like automation. You don't want to have. I almost built the team to fully run automated, like just leads come in and drip campaign gets assigned and blah, blah. I really suggest against that. People need people. They need belly to belly human contact. You know what I mean? But systems can be there to keep you accountable. For example, even just having like a closing template, like a task list, that gets applied, and maybe you just change the reply to inspections date according to what the contract is or this or that. I mean, that keeps you accountable, because most people, especially as you get busy, your brain's not going to remember all the dates and timelines as they come. And it's a lot less mental stress. I would say that's been my number one thing. Out of anything I do, I have, like, my email is a task list. There's nothing in my email but then what needs done. I have a reminders app on my iPhone I use. We have a CRM we use the tasks in there, so everyone is like a task queue, because then I don't have the mental stress of like, did I pay that bill? Did I close that? Did I order that sign down? I just have a task list. So I would say set up systems to keep yourself accountable. The email thing is a very highly suggested thing, because I've missed, this all came when I missed some leads through my email. It just got so jumbled with all the spam we get and stuff. One day I said, nope, cleared out, everybody's got 5,000-10,000 emails sitting. A lot of people do, sitting there. Went through one day, just cleared them all out. Not Tank's on it.
I am OCD with that.
Love it.
I clear them out if it's crap, gone.
I have so many garbage emails that just gets flooded every day.
I just did it right before I got on here.
Good
Lisa,
for you.
What do you have? Do you have them in there?
My email for years it's been a working inbox. So only things that are still outstanding is what sits in my email. And I try to go through that every morning and then again in the evening.
Nice.
I'm not perfect. There are days where you're just so busy working. At the end of the day, you're like, oh my gosh, I have 75 emails in my inbox. And that makes my heart palpitate a little bit. But I will always take the time to clean it out as soon as I get a minute to do it.
That's awesome. I mean, that's you don't want to miss any contact, and that's one of the keys why you have to have it that way. So any agents listening to this, if you have if you have an iPhone and you have over 500 red little badge icons on there,
take the time to fix that. And
so many people do.
I still go through on a weekly basis and unsubscribe from all of the junk that I get. I mean, I did a solid few months of that, unsubscribing from all of the junk, but you always get more. So when I get something that I don't want, I make sure that I'm unsubscribing immediately. Yep. So that I don't have to sort through all of the junk.
Yep, you have to. And there's some apps that can help with that too. There's a lot of apps that have like one-click unsubscribes, like different, I think the Gmail, it's one of the apps, even the popular apps even has it built right in. I forget if it's Gmail or the iOS mail app or something, but they just have it at the top. And I don't know if they send a reply that says unsubscribe me and that unsubscribes it. I think some of them do that. But anyway, there's some apps that can help you with that.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up.
Mother's Day gift.
Yeah. That'd be great.
So, and I feel like I'm probably not the biggest technology user in the world. I'm more people to people. I mean, I definitely understand technology. I just don't embrace it the way that Chad does. And I have systems in place. I took some time during this quarantine. I had actually ordered a new program right before the quarantine, through January, February, and was starting to use it. And then this all happened. So I've not really had a great chance to use it yet because I haven't had any new files, but I now have a task manager, and it still allows me, and I have a part-time admin, to go in there, and we just want to make sure that we're on task, because I do not want to spend the majority of my day wondering, did I send that inspection reply, and when's closing, and when do I need to tell them to change their utilities and things like that. They're very important things, but I do not want to clutter my brain up thinking about, did I do this? Did I do this? And God forbid you miss the date, because they're all very important dates.
I think that's the biggest theme of like this part really is clearing up the mental space. Like I can say that, so my second year in, I did, I think it was like 61 units or whatever. And Britt had helped on a couple of those. I think, she had started to come in that year. And my mental state was just gone. Like I couldn't, 2 + 2 = 5 type deal. Like it was not working. And even as the team has started to grow, that helped it. But I can't say until the last 6 months to a year that I finally dialed in my mental state. Like I have clarity finally. There's times where that goes nuts when I'm looking at shiny new object syndrome, going from piece to piece on what new app looks cool.
There's always something new. Always.
Yes. And you got to watch shiny new object syndrome. I mean, Brittany might not think that I have slowed down on that, but I have. I mean, when we started the team, I used to have a new system. It was a lot easier to implement then too, though. I only had like 2 agents and us, and we could try a new system real easily. Now we have 5, 6 agents, so that's the key. When you do get bigger, whether it's a lot of transactions or a lot of team members, either way, there's a almost loss to implementing a new system, depending on how much of your day-to-day that system affects. Some CRMs that include phone numbers, like Follow Up Boss, KV Core, stuff like that. You got to watch if you switch those systems, you have an entirely new phone number. But at the same token, it's nice to use those phone numbers integrated into some of those CRMs, because for example, in Follow Up Boss or KV Core, those are some of the CRMs we've used. You can go in there and see, the last time you talked to somebody, or sort by I haven't talked to them in 3 months. You can't do that if you just use your phone in bulk, right? You can't go into past clients. Oh, I haven't talked to these people in 3 months. It's just, so having systems for that is nice, but you have to give up, your phone number to a CRM. So it's just a lot of definitely whatever systems you're looking at. If anybody, if anybody's looking at a change or new systems or whatever, kind of think of it from play devil's advocate with it. I can say that I didn't do that a couple years ago, but I definitely do now. I play hardest. What happens if I leave the company? What happens if I stop doing a team and go solo? What happens if all these things? You have to think of worst case scenarios with any system you're bringing on, because there's a loss factor in that implementation time. Plus, there's things you don't think about up front. So as great as our team is right now, I try to make everything that if it had to scale back to just me and Brittany, it would work, and it would work great. So you got to try to play devil's advocate with those things. So what I want to touch back on though was accountability within those systems. So we talked about the email thing. That makes you accountable, right? We talked about closing task templates. That makes you accountable. One of the newer things that, so we just switched from KV Core to Follow Up Boss. I love KV Core. I think KV Core is a great system. I think as the team gets past 5 agents, it gets a little tough. That was my opinion of KV Core for that. So we switched to Follow Up Boss. Within Follow Up Boss, it had your speed to lead time. So it took, 25 minutes or 10 minutes that day, so if I have 10 leads, it tells you 10 leads came in today, today's speed to lead was 25 minutes. So I can see that my agents took that. Or if I see an hour, I'm like, why did it take them an hour? That was the first call, text, or email, any of them. And it goes in and it breaks it down. Speed to call, speed to text, speed to email. I mean, it's got all of it. And then it says contact attempts per person. So you can see, 2 attempts. If there's 10, average contact attempts is 2. If there's 10 leads, that means we made 20 contacts today, just all this data in there. So do you have to have it all like that? Now, I mean, I really like Follow Up Boss. I'm a big fan of it. I definitely think more so for a team than an individual, but the pure thing of all the stats that gives you some accountability. Have I been on top of these leads today? You don't have to have it in, you know, CRM. I mean, you can figure this stuff out, but creating systems to know that is the key. You know, am I following up with these leads quickly? Am I contacting them enough? Or if it's sphere based and not internet lead based, you know, am I in touch with these people? I took a sphere lead myself a couple months ago, and I told myself, hey, I'm gonna set them up on a search, and I'm gonna check in with them once a month. I'm gonna recommend them houses once a month. They were slower, you know, they didn't want to buy it immediately, so I just said I'm gonna do that. Well, what happened was I didn't for 3 months almost. I when they texted me or asked me a question about a home, I responded, but I did not proactively reach out. I was reactive. I was not proactive. So what I did was I bought into my own team system at the time. I was using KV Core, and I just applied the client drip campaign I have, and basically that just reminds us to recommend them homes once every 2 weeks. It's just a task. And then it reminds us to check in with them once every 2 weeks too, like the call or text. That's all it is. It's not like it's some automated email, text, blah, blah, blah. Drip campaigns don't have to be automation central. You know, it could just be an accountability system. And all of a sudden, you look at the next 2-3 months with this person, and I'm actively recommending them homes. I'm talking to them, seeing how they're doing. You know, like I'm on top of it. And the only thing that changed was I just applied a drip campaign. You know, I just, no matter how much you know, it's a friend of mine, and I care, and you think that I'll remember to do that, but you just get busy and just things slip. So if you set those accountability things in place, no matter whether you're very internet based or.
And in the drips, I mean, there's you know, different ways you can do it. You can make them look personal by, you know, just talking in just a very, you know, level, you know, way. Putting, what do you do, Chad? You put emojis in and misspell a few words just to make it look like it's actually you. That, or you can, what I do is I'll blatantly say, this is automated. This is not me. So, you know, I'm going to, you know, reach out, or if you need anything, reach out. But, you know, I pretty much laid out there that this is automated. So don't hate me.
Yeah, so, I think, I'm sorry, John, but
no, you're good. No, I talk
like my business model and your business model is totally different, where I'm very sphere based and I don't do a lot of internet leads. So I don't use the same programs that you use. I use my own program that goes to me from brokerage to brokerage, because I've left brokerages, and the first time I lost all of my data, I thought I'll never do this again, and got myself my own database, or my own CRM. But I definitely make it a point to go through and call every single person that I'm actively working with at least once a week, if not every 2 weeks. I think it depends on the person. So while it may take me a little bit longer to get through that, it's definitely like a personal reach out, and they're definitely talking to me via phone or text. And I'll put them on my drip campaign. And I will tell people that their MLS search is automated, because people think that I look at that every day, their personal search. And I just say to them, that's automated. So if there's something you have a question, you have to make sure you're asking me, because I'm not looking at that every day. And I think people appreciate that honesty. Like Brittany was saying, you just say, it's not me. It's not, you know, that's automatic.
Yeah.
And then taking the time once a week, maybe you're not looking at those houses every day, but taking the time once a week to go in and look at it, so you can see what they're getting and why are they not asking to see any of these homes. And a lot of times, because we were working with so many people, we've been in these homes that they're seeing, and we know that they're good houses or they're not good houses. So let's offer them our opinions and say, hey, we've been in this house, you know, the pictures aren't great, but in person it's nice. And people can appreciate that.
Yeah, when you know those people and their wants and needs, and you've been in certain houses, you can actually say, this house is really good for this person. We should really try to get them in this house as well. And it usually is a good fit. Well,
and and I think setting expectations for people is the key. So it kind of chimes in with all that, whether it's the drip campaign or the auto search. And so I try to tell people, I say, hey, look, we're going to set you up on an auto search. It's like Zillow, it's like all the other sites, you know, but it's just through our MLS. It's from the horse's mouth, so that you don't see that the taxes are $1,000 a year on Zillow, but they're really $4,000 because they pull from too many websites. And then I tell them, I say, hey, but I'm going to recommend homes to you up front. And then, as we go, as we see a house or two, I'll start to get a better feel for what you like, and I'll make different recommendations based on that. And that's what you do. But you're just telling them, hey, up front, I'm going to make a couple recommendations, and here's the auto search. It's going to be automated, just like any search you can do. The key too is I do like to tell them to interact with the system. So I try to tell them to heart or like or favorite stuff. And I tell them I pay attention to that. I'm not like calling you every time you heart one, but I'm paying attention to that, and I'll help make recommendations based off your interests. You kind of say, help me help you. And then so with the drip campaigns, but like you were saying, so I went down to the office. I talk about this a lot to people that know me, but I went down to the office, sat down there for 3 hours. I brought a ton of different shirts, and I recorded different informational videos. Like, this is what hand money is. This is what inspection process looks like. This is what appraisals, this is mortgage types. This is so just a bunch of explanation videos and put them on a drip. So they were going out for my team, and I had them intertwined in a drip campaign, all this stuff. So anyway, point is, so to hit on Brittany's point, I just recently fixed it, and I sent out an initial email from the team member that says, hey, by the way, I put you on and I put in quotes, explanation video lists. So it's basically just a bunch of explanations about what you might go through with the home buying process. So now they're prepared for this. Now they're not just getting, like my idea originally was I'm gonna change my shirts, and they're gonna think I'm recording it and sending it to them live. And like, you can only fake automation so much. I mean, the misspelled words, emojis, keeping it short, those are the best tips and tricks to do that. But I don't really, I could say I've come out of a mindset where you want to, I've tried the full automation mindset, tried that. I just don't think it works. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm a fan of a hybrid. You make technology work for you, but you keep the best elements of humanity there. You don't try to fully get replaced by a computer, because I really don't think there's a place for that in real estate. There's such a, hyper personal type business, and such an emotional process that's why that these, iBuyers and open doors and offer pads won't ever fully eliminate the realtor process. That's why lawyers won't ever go away. You know what I mean? There's not just like a black and white in in law. Like, there's interpretation of that, and real estate is the same way. What one house is worth to one buyer is different than the other. And I think that's why there's always a place for a human being, at this, and it's why it's a skilled trade. We are like attorneys or some experts. We don't just open the doors and
no. And I truly believe that people want someone that they know, like, and trust. I mean, that is what real estate is. And if they can't trust you, I mean, they're going to dump you. So
or they're going to second guess everything you ever say. And it's just a longer experience. It isn't a good experience.
Harder. It's so much harder.
You want to work smarter and not harder. That's for sure.
You can smell commission breath too. So I don't know why. Yeah. Agents that I've had a lot of people come that say, oh, this agent was trying to push me towards this or that, and maybe they were or weren't, whatever. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere with that. And it cracks me up. We're not in like a car sales industry where the person has to buy a car on this lot for you to make money, like in a buyer sense, right? Seller sense is obviously you just get the listing or not. But for a buyer side, that buyer can come to you as long as they buy a house anywhere. Most 90% of the cases they're listed with a realtor, and they offer a commission, maybe a couple of FSBOs, and the buyer has to pay for it. But you can get paid on any house they buy. You're not, so there's no incentive for you to push a house on somebody, especially if you want repeat business and you want referrals.
Right.
What is that going to help you if they're, talking to their friend's mother, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this house sucks, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wait, who sold them that house? It just is not a good thing. You want that house. You want raving fans of that house, of you, everything.
And I think sometimes people feel like you're trying to push a house on them because we've been in so many houses, so we know a good house from a bad house. sometimes we get in a good house and we're like, this is we try to like talk it up because we know that it's a good house, but I never would want someone to feel like I'm pushing a house on them ever. I mean,
and it's the worst when they find the perfect one with their first house they've seen. So it gets fun, but
that is the worst.
Yeah. And I always explain to them, I say, I know this is the first or second house you've seen. Usually, I mean, what are the stats? Isn't it like now that we have Zillow and all these online sites to, view homes, I think the average is between 5 and 8 that most buyers see. So I try to discuss that, even though some people still need to see 30 homes, which is fine. You know what I mean? But you just have to, you tell the stories you've been in. And I like to, if there's a house that I've been in houses where I beat them up. I'll go in and I'm honest with all my people. I say, hey, like, I don't like the price, or, this needs fixed. I've flipped a couple homes myself, so I can talk about the, fixes and repairs that they might, be looking at. But I've beat up houses so much that some of them still want the house, but they appreciate that I'm honest about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always say we can always circle back to that one house that they liked or did not like if they need to.
And I still truly believe that buying a house is a feeling, and it's your house. It's just, you can see it on their face.
Yes.
They know it's their house, but sometimes when it's the first house, you got to take them to see 3 or 4 more.
Yeah.
And then go back and say, hey, let's just go back there. And then you get that aha moment on their face.
Yeah. So 2 things with that. One, that you encourage that moment, like encourage it, build it up. I do that. Like I try to tell them.
Buyer consult.
There you go. Perfect. Mm-hmm. So in a set expectations, kind of mentality. But yeah, I mean, just gear them up for, hey, you're going to know when you know what I mean? And I tell them that, like, have your system, have your expert data, have your stuff, you know what I mean? Have your professionalism, but weave the emotional and the personal aspects into that, you know what I mean? Encourage that they're going to have that aha moment. Encourage that, it's going to fall into place, keep their emotions happy through the process, and listen and understand them too. Don't just go, well, this house should have worked because on paper it's this, and this. Well, some houses just don't feel right. And you got to acknowledge that too. So weave them into each other. But then the other thing I want to hit on too with that is, so one of the things, especially, you're right, when it's the first house and it's the right house, it's tricky. It's hard. One of my favorite things I do is I just put them in my shoes. I go, all right, listen, guys, I'm going to have a tough time beating this. I got to beat this house. Now I got to find a better house than this one. Like, I'm screwed, basically. So I kind of say, like, there's pretty much no chance I'm going to beat this one. Let's go and keep looking. If you want to, let's keep looking. But what is going to happen now is every house we see, you're going to compare to this. And I'm just telling you from my day-to-day, my expertise, I don't think we're going to beat this. Maybe there's a unicorn out there that I don't know about, but most likely we are not going to beat it. And when you make them think from that perspective, like, he's telling me that his job is to find me the house, and he's saying, shit, I can't do anything better than this. You know what I mean? It helps. That mindset has helped me. Make them see it from your perspective. Perspective is the key. I mean, that's one of my favorite things too. Is I'll normally say it at the outset with the buyer consult. I'll say, I kind of like try to use my fists as like brains if I'm in person or on Zoom lately. But like, you guys know what you want. Your brain knows what you want. Your search criteria. It. Even if you give it to me in words, you're just trying to communicate what's in your brain. I know the process and the houses and the market and the expertise. Right? If we take these 2 things and we get as much transparency and data together as we can, to be one team almost, that's how we find it. That's how we get the right house, So let's take your search criteria, what you want. Let's combine it with my knowledge and expertise, and let's mash it together. And let's make it one streamlined process. And I think the better you are at doing that, merging them and you into one entity for that process, the quicker it goes, the more likely you're to show 5 houses as opposed to 50. But showing 40, 50 houses isn't necessarily, always wrong. Some people, their mindset on what they want evolves too, and I think that's what the symptom is.
I think when you get to number 10, 12, you need to sit down and have a whole nother discussion, because what's happening, because we're looking at what you said you wanted to look at and it's not working. So let's reevaluate and see where you're at. Because I mean, once you get to 20, 30, they
start blurring.
So, and I mean, they'll even say like, well, you remember that house that we saw? And I'm like, no, I don't remember, because there's been so many. So I just think it's worth that conversation and the time to sit back down.
Yeah, there's nothing. Don't be scared of that conversation. Like agents, they shouldn't be. You're not a mean person to have that conversation. And if you're really worried, my advice, a little like script that can help is call the elephant out in the room. I a lot of times will say, listen, it's not about the fact. I'll go show houses. Like, I'm the judge of my time. If I feel like I'm wasting my time, I'll just let you know, and that'll be it. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this to try to make a sale quicker. I'm doing this because we're on the wrong page and you're wasting your time. Again, perspectives too, flipping it around. Don't be scared to have that conversation. That's your job. You're the expert. You're their fiduciary. If they're going down the wrong road, wasting their time, you're not doing your job as an agent. So being silent sometimes and just going through the motions is not the best thing for your client. So don't. I used to think of that as like, oh, I'm being mean. I'm the mean agent. Tell them. But it's not. You there's a way to do it.
Experience. It's the experience that we have. It's just like, if you went into a doctor's office and you're trying to self-diagnose yourself, he's not going to let you go down that rabbit hole. He's going to diagnose you. So why would we let them continue to look at houses that are not meeting their criteria? It's our job to keep them on track.
And the same thing goes with listings. I mean, one of the things I like to say now is, hey, is it okay if I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear? Is that okay? I mean, you can use that with buyers too, but I think with sellers, that is the key. You know what I mean? Getting that listing at the right price is probably one of the hardest tasks I think on average most realtors deal with. Because people think their house is worth 50 to 100 grand more than it is half the time.
Well, and I think that when you go into a listing presentation and your numbers, you ask them what they think their house is worth, and what their house is worth. I would rather say to them, I'd rather disappoint you this evening than disappoint you 6 months down the road when your house is still on the market.
And also ask them how eager are they to sell it? Are they willing to wait for that $50,000 overprice offer, or they want to sell it and move on with their life or their other purchase that they need to do?
Yeah.
And this all ties into just be the expert.
Yeah.
Do your job. Don't just sit there and like idly sit by and like just, I'm going to get some sales because I'm going through the motions. And you're wasting time. You're wasting their time. You're losing them money, buyers or sellers. I don't care what it is. Just be an expert. You know what I mean? Do your job.
And we're still talking about the consumer experience, right? So,
essentially, yep.
I just wanted to tell this real quick story. So a couple of years ago, I was selling a first-time home buyer a home, and he didn't really ever want to talk on the phone. It was text. Everything we did, we text. We never talked on the telephone. We get to the closing, and it was a very easy process from beginning to end. There were no bumps in the road. We get to the closing, and the kid he comes walking in. And he's all broken out. I mean, like boil-sized pimples on his face. And I could tell he was stressed out. And I said, can I get you a cup of coffee? He goes, no, I'm just so nervous. And I'm like, well, no, we're going to go sign the papers. We're done. Like nothing is going to happen. You're going to get the keys this afternoon. And he had, Lisa, I've just been such a nervous wreck this whole time. I haven't eaten in 2 days. And you could just see like the look on his face. And I felt like the world's worst real estate agent in that moment, because I had no idea, because we were only communicating via text and a whole lot gets lost in a text message, that he was as stressed out as he was. He never indicated to me that he was stressed out. But I made a decision that day in that closing, seeing how, literally the kid was sick over buying a house, and there was nothing wrong, that I would never do a whole transaction via text again. Whether he liked it or not, or the next person liked it or not, they're going to hear from me on the telephone a couple of times, because I can't hear what's going on in their voice via a text. So, And I just feel so terrible because so many bad things could have happened, and everything just happened exactly the way it should have. But he was just so sick through that whole transaction. It really like opened my eyes that day.
Yeah.
So I've had one that is a little different. They wanted us to text, like they directly, like they actually, well, that one actually was in Facebook Messenger, like that's how they communicated constantly. And they had a fit that we hadn't called them. You know, it was a big ordeal, which we did a couple times. There were calls placed, but like we went with their method of communication. And I think the key point is here, it's important to know their method of communication, and yes, you know, text them and in Facebook Messenger and whatever they wanted, you know, a lot, but still have that check-in and have that call. Like agents that, and I was one of them at one point, that think you could just sit back and automate or text or hide behind the phone, you know, the whole entire time. Like that's just not going to happen. You're in the wrong business. You need to get belly to belly, you know, person to person with this now more than ever. Especially with us being quarantined at home and stuff like this in this new potential, you know, world we're entering into. You know, you need, and even coronavirus and all this stuff aside, we live in a very much more digital world than it used to be. So that human to human contact is that much more valuable, you know, than it ever was, because regardless of coronavirus, people are at home more. You have to go to the movies as much as you used to because the TVs are huge and your sound systems are awesome. It's a lot cheaper, and there's video games and there's, you know, all kinds of stuff that you have at home more. So the younger generations don't go out and just see people like older generations did. So that human to human contact is the key in such a high emotional experience. You're never going to erase that. So keep.
I had one earlier this year that they were with an agent and they ended up terminating on a house, and it was given to me to kind of handle afterwards. And I was scared we were going to lose them after that. But I started noticing how he started acting after we got under contract with a new house. And I was like, I don't understand why he's being this way. So anytime I got him on the phone, he was completely different. He was a completely different person. He would angry text like all the time to me. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. So every time I called him, we cleared the air and there was always like no problem whatsoever. So now I'm learning, you know, from the transaction that he ended up terminating on, there clearly wasn't phone calls made. There clearly wasn't people, you know, helping him understand things. So, you know, whether they're upset or, you know, mad or sad, scared, phone calls, they're so important. You need that emotion to emotion with people.
And this group right here on this mastermind, really, we saw 170 transactions just last year alone amongst us. You know, you guys did 50, or you know, Lisa did 52, and you know, our team at 118. That's 170 transactions. So, you know, that should tell you. I think we're all clearly, and we're different. You know, Lisa's and Tank, you guys are very sphere based. You know, network marketing. You know, and we're very internet lead based. I mean, we have our sphere, and I'm sure you have internet leads. You know, but generally we're very internet lead based, and we're saying the same thing. I mean, and with a lot of production behind it. So if that as an agent doesn't tell you that, I don't know what does, you know. And I almost wish this was said to me earlier on in the business too, because especially with the team. I think the first 2 years of the team, I tried to do the opposite of that, and I was like fighting an uphill battle, really, until you start to realize, no, you got to be on the phone. I don't care if it's, you know, I'm not necessarily saying you got to prospect and cold call all day long, although that has a higher conversion rate than auto text and drips do. Mm-hmm. You need to touch your clients. We talk about the consumer experience, and we were going to talk about, you know, like, so we do a closing tracker. We use Folio by Ametry or whatever it is. The Google Chrome extension. It's awesome. It has this nice timeline where we're going to talk about ways we're leveling up the consumer experience. That was one of the precursors of the show. But the more and more I sit here and talk, none of that shit matters. Just none of that matters as much as being on the phone, being a human being with your client, or in a team's case, making sure you have that person there for that, you know, in our case, it's our buyer agents, you know, or even an admin, you know, that's very friendly and on the phone. And you have to have and that was one of the other things I'm talking about, was talent. You know, if you have the right talent there, that's 10 times better. Hiring a talented person that's good on the phone, that's very nice, and welcoming and easing, comforting conversation, is 10 times better than any drip campaign or, piece of automation you can buy. So talent is a big deal, which probably is a perfect bridge, I think, into there's a few more team building topics I want to talk about, and then we want to talk about working with your spouse too. So with the team building, I think one of the biggest things I want to talk about, so we just kind of spoke about talent. I mean, you got to have talent. You have to recognize and reward your talent too. If talent is left unrewarded or unrecognized, it's gone. Bye. You know what I mean? The talent is your most prized possession. It's better than your CRM. It's better than all that stuff you can have. So, and it doesn't have to be this team of buyer agents and listing agents. You have a talented lender. If you have a talented title rep, you have a talented contractor. Recognize where your talent's at and amplify that talent. Use that. That is your biggest catalyst you can have in a team building setting.
So when I was getting ready when I made the decision that I was going to hire someone, I was really distraught because where am I going to find someone that's going to provide that same experience that I would provide? And so when Tank said that he wanted to come into real estate, for me, it was scary that he was going to leave his job, but it was also reassuring because I knew that he would treat my clients the same way that I would treat them. And honestly, he was going with me on showings.
Yeah.
And people liked him a lot. And I would show up by myself and they'd be like, oh, Tank. And they were disappointed that it was me. So for me, it was an obvious choice. But I think that you have to choose talent that's going to work. And Brad and I were just having this conversation before this started about sometimes you need talent that is not just like you, because while somebody may click with me or may not click with me, they would be a perfect fit for Chad and vice versa. So sometimes it's good to have someone that's a little bit opposite of you, that you can suit all of the personalities that you're working with.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's been so cool, masterminding the stuff with you, with you, the stuff that we've done. And then also like Brittany, I mean, I'm very numbers and tech based, and she's very personable and,
quality.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's one of the big building blocks you need is don't just hire a bunch of yous. You know what I mean? It's not going to push you. You know what I mean? You're just going to get stuck in this narrow, vision tunnel. And you can't delegate with that. You can't delegate with when everybody likes to do a certain subset of tasks. You know what I mean? What about the other ones that need done? Everything needs done at some level or another. And the beauty of real estate is you don't have to do things you don't want to do. We have the freedom to choose with that, but make sure you hire somebody who wants to do those things that you don't want to do.
Everybody's got to have that same goal mentality, that same core value. It's a very important thing. Like before I was a realtor, I also coached a lot of teams, and that was always the big thing, is having that same goal and being able to have everybody else do different jobs to get to that goal.
Yep. And two is better than one type. The team. People together can do more than one person, and that's definitely the case. And with teams being such a big thing in real estate now more than ever, I mean, that's a good thing. Just use it the right way. Don't just build a team of worker bees. Build a team of, this that has clarity, that has focus towards a unified goal, and wants to achieve it together. Whatever that goal is, whether it's this work in your sphere at utmost potential and at a high level of service to them, or increasing, if you want high level of units, you know what I mean, but doing it efficiently and properly, you know what I mean, having a nice, whatever it is, just make sure, I think, you build it with clarity, with a unified goal in mind.
And you have to make sure you're giving motivation to whoever it is, whether it is your team members, your lender, your title. They all need that, push, just like we do. You know what I mean? Like all of these brokerages, you do so well and you're rewarded for it, whether it's a trophy or $16,000. So yeah, we all need that. We all need that motivation. Am I right?
Well, I mean, you look at the Icon Award, right? So there's money behind it. And obviously, we get so excited about the stock awards and whatnot. But I mean, the name Icon is pretty important. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of psychology that goes behind that award beyond just, it's nice to say, hey, I'm an Icon agent. I mean, that when you say that to a consumer and just like, what? You're an icon? It's an important word. So, I mean, with your team, it isn't always just money, gift cards, whatever, whatever, little challenges, little fun things. But, having that sense of the competitive or like wanting to look very good or, be the best. I mean, Icon is an awesome version of that, from a brokerage model, but, with a team model, having your, killer of the month, you know what I mean? There's something, I don't know. That was something that just popped in my head. It's kind of weird, but anyway, what were you saying, Brent?
No, I mean, I went into ours, but like rewarding your agents, like, our top agents were like, hey, we're probably going to push more listings off on you guys because you're showing, that you want more. So we're going to, reward you in that way. And then, the agents that maybe aren't working as hard, we're going to still reward them by giving them more knowledge and, time from us. Lenders, keeping them motivated, like, we do with Sean, we're always like, you're the man, you know what I mean? We got to keep him happy with us. Can't get him bored with us or else he'll, not work as hard for us and he'll forget about us. So we just try to keep everybody motivated. So
on that note, anytime you're asking a lender for RESPA compliant, but RESPA compliant marketing dollars or something like that, I saw Zillow money. So agents that have asked lenders for Zillow money, just because that was a thing about 4 or 5 years ago. That was my big thing for a lender. Hey, you got to give me money. A lot of these agents would just come to the lenders like, you have to give me money to do this, or I ain't working with you. That's not a way to approach it. And that kind of comes back to this rewarding and recognizing, So just being a human to these people, whether it's, whatever version of that team it is, a buyer agent or a lender or whatever. Anyway, when I would come to Sean or any lender I'd approach with it, I would say, hey, look, these are the number of leads we're getting. I'm working them at this conversion rate. I think if we try it for this many months and it works, you should get this much. And, it wasn't just like, hey, give me money because you want my business. You got to give me money. It was, hey, let's do this together. This is my mindset. If you do this, we'll give you some outside deals too, or whatever. I don't know. Like, or we'll make you a preferred lender, not give you our outside deals, but we'll make you our, preferred lender, whatever. So you have to recognize and reward them and come to them with like a human approach too, not just like, give me money, because you're getting some of our referrals, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain that, but what I was getting at, but losing track. It's been a week.
It's only Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday.
Is it really?
It's because you were watching Star Wars all day yesterday in there.
I wish I did not.
You did.
I do. When we talk about referral partners, I think it's so important to have great groups of referral partners, people that you can really trust, because in this business, everything had to happen yesterday. And having those relationships and being able to call and say, hey, I am in a pinch. Can you help me out? It is so important. And it's important to us to try to get the deal moving along, but it's also important to our clients. And we look really good to them when we're able to say, hey, yep, I'm going to have my junk guy come over. He's going to come over. Or my handyman's going to come over and take care of that. They're more apt to send us a referral when we can get it done. We do a good job for them. So, I mean, Tank and I both spend a ton of time building relationships with our vendors. We do a lot of networking events. I do a lot of lunches with my vendors, and they always want to buy you lunch. I mean, because I feel, and I told Tank this when he started in real estate, I'm like, there's a natural order, who buys who lunch, but I won't always let them buy. Like, why can't I take them out for a meal and treat them? They do a good job for me. They deserve it.
It's always about us being able to be the best resource for our clients and for our vendors as well.
I know I get a lot of referrals from my vendors, a lot.
If you treat them right, they're going to treat you right, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have worked at a very high level. I mean, that's and so you take kind of hitting back to the beginning of this. So you take moving to a different market. You may not know as many people and stuff like that. What an awesome way to get right in there. You know what I mean? So you've done networking meetings like weekly, right? For a long time.
Yeah.
And you've just developed that. And really that's probably the big cornerstone of your business, right?
Yeah, networking and volunteering.
Yes.
That honestly was the very first thing that I started to do when I moved here is I joined the Lions Club in Beaver Falls. And I still do a lot of business out of my Lions Club group. Now I don't go there, looking to see who's going to give me a referral this week. I go there and I actively participate. I mean, I was Lion of the Year 2 years ago because I gave so much of my time. But givers get, you give, you get. It's the natural order. So I started out volunteering and I still volunteer with a lot of different organizations and networking.
And when you're in those networking groups and meetings, showing leadership and getting involved in that aspect, showing your skill set that you have that you would show to your clients and their families as well. And they're more apt to give you those referrals and trust you with those referrals as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. I mean, you just, it's more human contact, really. That's your vessel for that, and how you can just put more of yourself out there. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. So working with your spouse.
For better or for worse. There we go.
So yeah, I mean that's may not always work for everybody, but I think we do it all pretty well here. So yeah, some of the keys to that. I mean, Brittany and I have done it for a while now. It's definitely very different. I mean, having to well, the work-life balance is different than you think too. You're excited that you both have a freedom job, right? Like you can choose your own time, but at the same token, whether it's kids or dogs or just schedules lining up, you want to still have the time off together too. So I think paying attention to how that work-life balance can be is a big deal. You can lose each other easily if you're not paying attention to that. You want to keep it's like a team in itself. You want to keep that team happy and motivated and still interacting with each other and not just off solo, never talking to each other, because that's not really working with your spouse. Right. You know what I mean? That's working without your spouse in the same business.
Important. So it's funny because in our relationship, Tank always says you're the boss, and it literally is the truth.
Smart.
Because like, he does what I tell him, and he knows, like, when it comes to work, like, I'm going to do what Lisa says. And if I don't, I mean, what am I going to put him in the corner, but it's frustrating when he doesn't listen. And I hate having those arguments, but I mean, he does what I ask him to do. And I think it's important to also schedule your time together in your calendar and make that an appointment that's not broken. I mean, there's always going to be an exception to that rule, but the exception can't be every week. You can't take your date night away every single week. Right. But in an emergency, okay. But it is nice to be able to take the time off during the week, because on the weekends you're primarily working, and we all know that we're going to be working.
I mean, that was what made it so easy to change careers too, is because basically Lisa was working all the time and I was with her no matter what, usually when I had free time. So we were already there working together, but I really wasn't able to be quote unquote working. So we were able to take care of that regard.
Yeah, I mean, like, teachers work during the day and real estate agents work. I mean, our phones start at 3-4 in the afternoon. We're out all night showing houses and we're working the weekends. That schedule does not work when your husband's a teacher. He's off on the weekends and nights. It just doesn't work.
And like you said, I mean, if you set that time aside, and we did that we've slacked a little bit with this coronavirus stuff, because it's like, we can't
go anywhere.
But But yeah, but it's, I mean,
You just lock them out of the room, Brittany.
Yeah.
but I mean, having that time that's your time, and like you say, it's nice too. You can do it during the week. You don't have to worry about waiting for the weekends like a lot of regular jobs do. You can even do lunches together. You can do different things, but still making sure you have that time is key. It's key. But so we're a little different, I would say, because like obviously Brittany had joined after I started, so I think that's kind of why it's the reversal. So like I kind of had this thing built. She come in, but Tank's smart still because happy wife, happy life. But Brittany is the boss still. So as much as I've built this thing, and I kind of drive it, right? Like I kind of drive it, but I consult her on every decision, and
Almost every decision.
90%. I'm pretty good, right? But you gotta listen. You gotta make them, if they're working with you directly with you in that business. Like Brittany is here. I have to make you aware of what's going on, what your mindset is on it. That we're on the same page. That I'm not just doing my own thing. Otherwise, again, you're not working with your spouse. You're working without. So it's tough sometimes. It's tough to bring up especially in a business sense when you want to bring up a risky business move. Money out. And something. Bring it.
What we've found that works best is to, again, like with our team, we recognize talent. So we recognize what we're good at and what we're not. So of course, Chad is good at systems and laying all of that out, and I'm not at all. I listen and I learn, but I cannot put together things like that. So obviously I let him just handle those things, and then working with agents and their deals and helping them in those aspects. Chad doesn't really have the time to do that. On top of, he gets so frustrated. So I'm like, you know what, we're going to take that off of you. I'm going to let them come to me with all their problems. So we've kind of been working that way. And then again, with listings and buyers, he usually takes over the listings, and because I'm usually out with buyers anyway.
I think what you're hitting on is honestly the trust factor, and honestly, who better to work with in trust more than your spouse? And that's why you make such a great team with each other. Normally, is you trust each other. You trust that Lisa's going to make the right decisions and tell me what to do. You're going to trust Chad to pick the correct systems. And then vice versa. They're going to trust that you're going to do a good job whenever they ask you to do certain things.
Yeah. And we're not all perfect. I mean, we've all made mistakes in making a decision. And part of it is, and I'm still a work in progress with this, is letting it go and not beating it like a dead horse. And Tank's shaking his head like, yeah, Lisa, because it's a work in progress for me. But, we're not perfect. Yeah. And our business model is a little bit different, where I'm probably Chad, more setting up the systems and working the listings and setting the appointments, and Tank's the one that's actually out in the field because people like him a lot. Not that they don't like me. I think I'm still likable, but if they have their choice, they would pick.
I hang out with them at bars.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I think, well, it's nice having that person you can trust, bouncing things off of too. So, I mean, Brittany's, you're saying you're not good at the systems, but the other night so trust, accountability, all that stuff. Like I have this person right there. I could go, hey, I trust your opinion. You're also in the field. You're like my direct access where you give me no BS and what's going on. Okay. If I implement this system across all these team members, is this a normal thing for them to work, or is this an OCD system, somebody who likes to complete tasks? You know what I mean? Like, is this normal? Will this actually get them to contact their clients, or will this just be another thing that they're like, oh man, the overlord is asking me to do these tasks because I'm part of the team? You know what I mean? And she was able to give me direct insight, and it was awesome because there's no BS there. It was just straightforward. No, Chad, people are going to hate that, or no, they're going to like this. So it can be a huge advantage working together. Yeah. Plus, I think when done correctly, because it can be done incorrectly, the work-life balance is just amazing. I mean, I know the time we've had with our kids in the first, our daughters are 3 and 5. The time we've had with them, any other career, I just don't like. I say all the time, there's moments that just wouldn't have existed, whether it's, like this little lunch or this, waking up for breakfast with them, or, when it comes to school, getting them there, this or that, just all these moments that we get that you would not have get if you're stuck at a 9 to 5 job or whatever it is. You're just stuck there. I mean, there's a lot of people take their kids to daycare, they go to their job, they come back, get their kid back till 6 o'clock. I mean, maybe we're working, or going and showing houses, but we still get those little moments that you just don't get otherwise. So from that aspect, it's awesome. And I think when done in the right way, it can be a force. I think husband and wife teams or just, setups in real estate have always shown that when done correctly, they can be awesome. It's really cool. Really happy real estate has that in there. So
you also need that time away from each other, though. I think if we were together nonstop, Lisa would rip my head off. I mean, that's when I go and do my secondary job. She gets to do her little thing, and that's when it kind of builds that relationship as well. Have your own little interests that you kind of get away from each other in that regard.
Yes, and it's nice too, because then when you come back together, you have that commonality, what to talk about, and you understand it totally. People that aren't in real estate kind of don't understand it unless you're in it. It's just like, but you do have to watch that too, because you could be sitting there at dinner just talking real estate nonstop. You're kind of like, you have to take those seconds and be like, okay, let's leave work alone. I need some mental clarity, some relationships, some family time. You have to. It's a balance thing. I think everything is balanced. I mean, it's just like we talked about with the clients. You can't just text them. You can't just call, but you have to have a balance, right? Yeah. So, all right. So we do this thing. So this fun thing with the fortune cookie of the show was Brittany's idea. I think I bring that up every time we play that. Anyway. So I'd say the fortune cookie of this show is pick up the phone, right? Like you have to talk to people. Conversation is key. Conversation is key. I would say, actual human belly to belly contact is key. I mean, we really iterated on that no matter what level we were talking about. I mean, and even same thing with husband and wife relationships, conversation is key, so having that there is everything to your relationships with your clients, with your people, with everything. It helps the overall experience with your team members, whatever, work. So it is called Raising the Bar, the podcast that we do. So, I'd like to kind of focus in on what bar we raised. I don't know. I think we talked about a lot of stuff during this. I mean, me personally, I think, we raised the bar of being an expert, making sure you're focused on your client and having those conversations, sometimes hard conversations, with people. That is key to everything, that human contact, having hard conversations, being the true expert, and human being in the profession and not just some big bot. It's like, and hopefully, in terms of speaking of raising bars, hopefully, or just education for this, if any agents, listening or watching this, hopefully I can have given you a shortcut to what I didn't know. When I built something, I tried to build it based on automation, based on just things working. Hopefully I can give you a little 10 cents, and Lisa and Tank and Brittany here as well, with the 170 transactions we saw last year alone, that you can't automate everything. You have to be human to human. You've got to talk to people.
Yeah. And I think also the bar is working with your spouse is work is work and life is life. And you need to have that separation. You cannot go to bed every night talking about real estate transactions and wake up in the morning talking about real estate transactions. There's got to be that separation. And otherwise, you're a business
because you never know, you might be quarantined for 2 months not being able to work, and then what do you talk about? Who knows?
Talk about how we're going to do real estate transactions then. Like this one.
Yep, it's real estate is addictive too. It is. I mean, like most people that are good at it or like it, it tends to become very addictive. And we have an aunt and uncle actually out in, it's my aunt and uncle in California, and we went out there, and we're both in real estate. They own a Remax, and we run our team here. we tried almost not to talk about it, but it's hard. You see that passion come out. Real estate's a very passionate career choice.
It's like a group of teachers together and all they talk about is school.
I mean, honestly,
I can't understand it.
Oh my gosh, my whole entire neighborhood is all teachers.
I mean, honestly,
it's so hard.
What I was saying is like, it's not the real estate aspect, it's just helping people. Like being able to help people, and that's what makes it feel so good to be able to work together. And like selling the house, getting that commission, that's like secondary. It's seeing those families relieved or happy to be able to move into something they thought they never could do.
And that's why I've always that was like the mindset with where I started. And so for me, like I'm on cloud 9 right now because I feel like the clients I work with, I feel like we really help them. The agents we work with on the team, I feel like we really help them. The rev share group, I do my best, I feel like I help them. And it's just, I think my biggest thing with real estate from the get-go has been just watching people's lives be improved. When I first started, it was like, I'm a good negotiator and I know I'm getting them $5,000 more than the other agent would, and that was my mindset with helping them. That was like my mentality, and that still exists. But as it's evolved, it's to the point now where it's like, I took somebody from making 40, 50 grand a year and they made 100 grand on the team, or, I something like that, just changing people's lives, So I'm on cloud 9 right now between the team, the model that EXP is given a platform to help people where we want to give, where we want to put our trade seekers out on a mastermind like this and help other agents. And obviously with the clients as well, it's just been one universal, like Tank said, helping people, because that feeling, that's the number one thing. All the systems, all that stuff, believe me, I like that. But at the end of the day, it's watching people's lives improve. That is like, I'm so addicted to that. So addicted.
Walk through in that photo, taking the photos, those are the best days. Full transaction is, just that sheer happiness. You walk through that house and they're just thinking like, I can't believe this is going to be my house. And I don't know, just now, like it gives me chill bumps thinking about it. It's good. Good business.
Buying your first house yourself, like you got that same excitement, right? Like whenever you buy your first house, you're like, this is the best thing. And the cool thing about our career is we get to like relive that through them, because you get like connected with these people where, you kind of feel what they feel through that. A lot of, engaged couples that will come through, I like feel like I'm part of their wedding process a lot of the times, and you get to feel that like first house moment over and over a lot, at least, not all the time, but
I'm always contacting them afterwards. Like, what'd you guys do the house? Like, I see pictures. I can't wait to, see it. And it's exciting.
That's all.
I can honestly say for anyone that's watching this and doesn't have a team, and maybe they're thinking about getting the team, last summer in, I think it was June and July, or May and June, I sold 19 houses in those 2 months. It was great to have all of those houses, but I can tell you, I was so exhausted from working that the day of the walkthrough, I couldn't feel what they were feeling. I couldn't appreciate it because I just kept thinking, are we done? I got to get to my next appointment. And that was the moment to me that I thought, I need help. Like I can't go to my appointments feeling just so overwhelmed and overworked.
You feel like you're just disservicing them.
And I'm just like, I'm basically just, I'm getting it done and they're all happy, but it's not fun for me. So that's, I think, for anyone that's thinking about, should I get a team? Because let me tell you, when I started, and probably even when I first met Chad, I don't want a team. Like I'm a single agent. I'm good working by myself. I don't want a team. But if it's not fun anymore and you have all of this business and you don't want to turn it away, then, and you feel exhausted and it's not fun anymore, it's time to start thinking about a team.
Absolutely. I saw that, like I said, that second year when I did those 60 units, I looked at this and I'm like, I'm like, okay, we can do 90. Like we could have. I could see me and Britt doing 90, 100 units, just us, no team, maybe an admin, right? No, I can't. And I've always said this, especially to my sphere that still comes through. I always said this. I cannot properly pay attention to your service. I saw that, like I saw that happening. So that's not fair to them. It's definitely not fair for me. And you don't have that mental clarity and like freeing up of that space there because of that. So it doesn't have to be, like we said through this, doesn't have to be a team of 5, 10 buyer agents and listing and blah, blah, blah. I mean, teams can look a lot of different ways. Just make sure that whatever team you're building, if it is, that it gives you that mental clarity, whether you have to have a ton of admin staff in the back end that does a lot of the mundane tasks, or you have a ton of agents, there's different models, or you're just, you get a great, network of vendors and people that just help it, whatever, hybrid you form, just to make sure it's something that's giving you your mental clarity so you don't get, go insane, really. I don't know how else to say it. Real estate make you go insane.
It could. It definitely could.
So cool. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on, pouring some value out here. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think you guys have done a lot in a very short amount of time, so I think it's you're worth listening to, and hopefully we raised some bars today. So yeah, that was a good one. All right, well, we'll end this here.
I'm gonna race to the bar.
What's that?
I'm gonna race to the bar now.
Hey, I'll meet you there. Sounds good. All right, we'll see you guys.
All right, see you guys.